Welcome to the Live Better, Sell Better podcast with your host, Kevin Dorsey of Inside Sales Excellence, the #1 Patreon group and YouTube channel for tech sellers and tech sales leaders, where we dive in deep for tactical advice on how to book more meetings, close more deals faster, and lead sales teams to success. But we don't stop there. We also focus on the person in salesperson. We talk about mindset, goals, time management, and so much more. So thank you for listening. And if you're interested, head on over to patreon.com/inside sales excellence. Now with that, grab a notepad, get ready, and let's dive into the good stuff. What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Live Better, Sell Better podcast. This is your host, Kevin Dorsey, aka KD, and we are going to be talking about another go-to-market acronym. Because SaaS, we love acronyms. We got GTM, ARR, MRR, CTA, KFC, whatever you want it to be. But if you think about how SaaS has grown, you've gone from SLG, sales-led growth, and now you're starting to see this dabble into PLG, product-led growth. But what's bubbling up more and more now on top of product-led growth is CLG, which is community-led growth. Everywhere you look, you see a new community popping up, new Slack channel, new weekly event, new webinar, all of that. And what we have to ask ourselves is, one, is it working? And two, can it continue to work? Which is why I'm so excited to have my good friend, Amelia Taylor, on the show today. She's the Strategic Sales and Lead Evangelist over at regie.ai, where I am also an advisor. But she has been in all of these communities: Modern Sales Pros, Pavilion, Hypercycle, Train.yo, RevGenius, all of it. So she sees what's happening and has some very unique insights on where CLG is going. So Amelia, welcome to the show. Let's do this.
Let's do this. I am pumped. I am super excited to be here, and there's no one better to be chatting about this exact topic with than you, because we both see where it's going, and we both are a part of all of these different communities.
Well, actually, that is where we are different, and why I think your perspective is going to be so strong is I am not.
Were you?
For most of them, no. I have never engaged in almost all of these communities that are out there. I get invited to. I'm not engaged in hardly any of them. So this is what will be fun to start. So let's start with this idea of community-led growth, because we can unpack this a little bit, right? Like, when you talk about communities, what do you mean, right? Like when you see kind of like CLG happening, community-led growth, what are you kind of seeing on the market with all these communities right now?
There's a need for the community. Let me start by saying that. I get that, because it's a different kind of sales motion or engagement, or the unorthodox way of reaching out to someone. I see that totally. Are there so many people trying to hop on the community train? Yep. Are way too many people doing it? Yep. Do people know what they're doing? Nope. And so therefore, it's a great, let's dive into this community, and then let's just kind of get a bunch of advisors to show up too, which is a whole nother take on it as well. What are the advisors doing on, to help? Because it's maybe the leaders within those communities, they don't quite know what they're doing with it, because it's not necessarily transactional kind of sales motions that are going on. So it's sales led, right? It's a community led. So they need these influencers, these people who have a voice on LinkedIn or other social platforms to show up within these communities to get more people to show up. And they're getting oversaturated, or they're just going to burn to the ground. I mean, I don't see it being this forever long thing. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what you've seen change, right? Because if you think like where it is, like I said, had your LinkedIn up, 10-bound, Pavilion, Modern Sales Pro, Girls Who Sell. What else am I missing in there? Hypercycle, Train. Like you've got your RevGenius and all of them. So what are you seeing now that you didn't see 2-3 years ago when a lot of these things are popping up? Why do you think it might be starting to decline a bit?
I think there's so many people who are seeing that there was and there is a better way to do community, to outreach, to actually be human and talk to people, right? And to get the knowledge that you need from some of these brilliant minds and these thought leaders who are people too. Let's just say that out loud. They're also just like everyone else, but they've done the work, put that in. but so let's reverse. Let's go 2-3 years back. Let's say Rev Genius, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody jumps into that, or Revenue Collective, which is now Pavilion. Everybody jumps in on that because it's something new, and people love the shiny new. They love to go after that, right? So then everybody starts to see this working. Okay, so I can start one. Oh, what if I did this? What if I decided to do my 9 to 5, and then at night I'm going to be doing this, and then on this day I'm going to do this. So everybody's now doing something one day of the week, and it's exhausting people. Totally. I mean, people are, I'm exhausted from looking at my LinkedIn when I look at all of those things. So I now have this whole like, all right, it's time to go after this and totally refresh, because am I active in all of those? No. So that's a whole nother thing in and of itself, that I'm not active in all those, but have I been a part of those communities? Yes. Have I shown up and delivered value? Yes. Have I gained a ton of knowledge from them? Yeah. But it's not all there for a lot of these anymore. I mean, I think they're getting burnt out, and it's kind of a clubhouse.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're seeing that more and more. So let's talk about how it can be done right. If you think about the communities you've been a part of, or the communities you've gotten the most value from, what did they do right, or what did they do differently?
Well, they put a paywall up. They had you have that pay before you play kind of thing going on. And I mean, Pavilion, let's speak to that. Mm-hmm. You're going to go where your buyers are at. And if they're there, the people with the pen in hand, they're going to be within Pavilion because they're paying members. So they're paying to get the knowledge. Whereas other communities, that's not the case. It's a let's join to play, not a pay to play. That's totally what's happening, where I'm seeing, all right, but you can't jump in and just say, hey, pay me to join my community without credibility. Mm-hmm. So you do have to get the right people within, but there has to be the right people leading from the very top. I mean, you can't just say, I've done X, Y, Z. I've gone from an SDR to an SDR manager or AE manager, so on and so forth. And so I'm going to start this community, and I want you to all show up and deliver value for free. And then I'm going to have a lot of growth. And then we're going to do giveaways, and we're not going to promote anything really other than what we're trying to do. So example, I shared something in a post of mine in a Slack group that I'm in yesterday, and I was told that they needed to take it down. And I thought, okay, they said we don't want any kind of marketing going out to the members within this community. And I thought, okay, small community to begin with. And they asked me to join. I said, oh, sure, yeah, I'll show up and kind of be a voice here a bit, but did not want me to market anything that I had going on, which was interesting because it was valuable for them to do so. So what value did I bring there? I have no clue.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't understand that. So if you think about, because I see a lot of this, right? As you well know, I get invited to all of them. I get asked to be in all of them and to contribute.
Advise for all of them, right?
You don't see any advisors on my LinkedIn for communities. Not a one. Right? Like, because those are different things. Because a community at the end of the day almost always has some sort of end goal in mind, right? There's a reason why they started that community. And unless I'm benefiting from that end result, it doesn't even make that much sense to do. So because a lot of companies are now starting to try to build communities, right? Yeah. You've had a lot of communities built that are turning into companies. But now you're having companies like, oh, we need to start a community. We need to build a community around our product, right? Because that's the key. So if you were to start a community from scratch today, right, for Amelia Taylor, LLC Incorporated S Corp, how would you go about building a community the right way to sustain through some of this community burnout, to sustain through the oversaturation? Like, what would you do differently if you were starting a community today?
First and foremost, I would go to the ones who have put the paywall up, who have been successful. I would ask for guidance, because that's the knowledge that you need. I mean, I wouldn't know where to start, so I would go to the source of who's done it and done it well. So let's say Sam Jacobs, right? I would go to him. I would say, hey, can you walk me through this? Would it be a competing community? That wouldn't be the goal, but communities all compete, right? So you also have to watch and see and ask the members too within, right? If there's one that's successful, so say Pavilion, I'm going to ask some of those members within who are super active. They're not a part of Pavilion per se, isn't working for Pavilion, but they are within the community, very active, asking them, why are you here? What are you benefiting, or what's benefiting you, like, for being here, right? Like, what are you getting out of this? Then I would go from there. But I would put that paywall up absolutely 100%, because people are, if you pay, you are looking for something more. You're looking for that business insight that's going to get you to that next level. You're looking for that guidance, that strategic, that in just wealth of knowledge that is not going to be in that free version of this community. But it is interesting what you talk about, how companies are doing this whole switch thing too. You know, companies are saying, let's do this community for what we sell. So I think about what I'm doing right now and how I approached Reggie when they approached me. You know, we approached each other pretty much the same time. And I said, all right, here's kind of what I want to do. A bunch of different things, which you and I talked about too. And the whole goal being break it down to evangelism, and it being showing up within communities, being the face of the company, being able to deliver value, bringing inbound, outbound, you know, all of those things to the table, being tied to revenue, that being the goal, right? So I knew that end goal being tied to revenue, bringing that into the company. Showing up within communities doesn't mean I have to create a community, but if it were me starting from scratch, I'd put a paywall up, and it would be with people who have been there, done that. I would have a few people with me, obviously, who would, but are also in the same field as me. So let's toss in a Nick Bennett, right? Let's say someone who's also in this evangelist kind of role, right? Or, you know, I don't know, I could toss out a Jen Allen. That's who I would team up with Jen Allen, but that's not either of our goals in life, right? Is to create this community, because I don't think it's sustainable at all. But if I were to do this truly, I would have to really take a good look at what my business case for this, like my long-term goal. Why am I doing this to begin with? Is it for instant gratification, or to say, or this clout of like, check out what I did. I built a community around evangelism. Like, I got all these like amazing voices of evangelists. You know, I've got the Arthur from Chili Pepper. I've got Jen Allen. I've got all these people. For what? So all these people join. What are they going to get? Some free insights, but what are those people who have worked their butts off to get to where they're at? What are they gaining? So I wouldn't create a community to begin with.
No. Well, and that's what's interesting too, because I started one and then very quickly stopped it, like very quickly, right? So I have my Patreon group, right, which was a Patreon group, right, and it was around content. And, you know, I brought someone on to help me to continue to manage it. And they were like, oh, you need to turn it into a community, not just content. And I was like, I really don't want to do that. They're like, but no, you have to. Like, communities are the thing, right? You got to do it. So I did it, right? So started the Slack channel and had like the weekly AMAs and had all this. And I was like, this is awful.
Exhausting.
It's horrible, right? Because also then you're building in, as the community leader, you're building in very quickly diminishing returns, where like the bigger the community grows, the more it's dependent upon you. So now you're pulled into it even more. And it was awful. It was rough. And it was
how do you pay? How are you paying someone? I mean, you're paying out of pocket for someone to manage this community, which this isn't your day job either.
Right. It was rough. And then the expectations that come with a community is also there. Because what I'm seeing a lot with the communities is they're starting, but they're not solving a problem. And I think that is why we're starting to see the saturation, is it's just another community. Right. So when Pavilion started, right, a lot of people don't know like the full backstory with like a Pavilion, right? It was Revenue Collective. It was executives only. Like, you had to be a director, if not a VP or above. And you could, a lot of people don't even know this, only one exec at a company could even be a member. Because the problem it was solving was a safe space to talk about challenges. So if I'm the VP of sales and you're the VP of marketing and we're both in this community, I can't talk about you. I can't be like, yo, like I'm really struggling with my VP of marketing right now because it solved a very specific
Yep.
problem, right? Rev Genius, I feel like when it started, solved a specific problem. Modern Sales Pros, when it
Right.
started, solved a problem. But now these other communities are all starting, and it's not solving a problem.
What is it for what, right? What is the problem being solved? A place to just hang out and just to network? I believe that would be really what people would say.
Mm-hmm.
That they're showing up within these communities to be able to network with the right, quote unquote, right people. And that's not the only place to find people, right? And, you know, to network with you, great, I'm going to go to Pavilion because that's where people like you are going to live, opposed to it being somewhere else where it's not this paid community, pay to play, where you're going to have this wealth of knowledge, where you're going to be delivering knowledge too within teaching a course and being able to deliver value that way. And that is really interesting, though, like what you bring up with it being where there's no end goal, right? Like I'm thinking of all these now. I don't know. And that's scary because people are putting a lot of effort in their time into building these communities, but they're all going like this. They're headbutting for what? For what purpose is the headbutting for? Because you don't even know what you're doing.
Right. The end goal needs to be established. And what will be dangerous for a lot of these communities is eventually someone's going to want to buy them. Right. Which is great. Right. Someone's going to want to scoop them up because they have a dedicated resource of all those things.
Right.
Like Outreach bot, Sales Hacker. Right. Sales Hacker had a captive audience that Outreach wants to sell to. It's like, let's go buy that and bring it in. Right. But then what happens with that is immediately the community loses authenticity because now it's KD, Patreon brought to you by.
Yes.
And now it's like, okay, now the end goal is clear. The only reason this community exists is to support this.
Is uplifting this, right? It's lifting this up. So do I support that? Why am I part of this group? Oh, because I'm going to fit in with everyone else within the group? Is it to just feel like you're a part of something? Is that what it is? I don't know. I mean, I think of Chief, for example. Chief is a very well-renowned women's group where you absolutely pay a good chunk of money to be a part of it. But you have got to be a VP of very minimum, right, to be a part of Chief. And I have reached out to multiple people like, hey, how in the world do I get myself involved in this? Because I'm not there yet, but I will be at some point, and I want to be around, I want to sit at that table because those are the people that I want to know and who are going to uplift me to the next level. That's not going to happen within these communities I'm a part of right now. I mean, my Slack it's long, this whole list of these communities, and it's pretty embarrassing, actually. I don't want to say that out loud. It's like, you got to scroll down a little bit. Not kidding. Yikes. I'm going to go and delete some after this. Yeah. But I mean, most of them are muted too, which is the funny part, that I have them there and say Hype Cycle. I've done it before, been on there. Great. Reggie supports it too. So I find there's value there. Other ones I'm a part of just because it was the right timing to join, but there's nothing I'm gaining from it. There's nothing that is setting it apart from being a more pavilion than, a just kind of jump in and vent, right? Maybe it's the place to vent where people just want to complain about what's going on outside of their workforce. I get that. Great. Go have your safe space there. But is everyone doing that? Maybe that's what a lot of people are doing.
Well, and it's a good setup to the next thing I wanted to ask you, because what I also see in a lot of these communities is very similar to even like social networks. The 80-20 rule is in effect where like really 80% are lurkers. They're in there, but they're not contributing. Then you've got like your hyper users, right? Where they're all up in there all day long, right? And you're like, do you have a job? Like, how are you?
Do you sleep? Yeah.
It's just crazy to me. And so I do want to, because there's cons to communities, there's pros. Let's flip it to the potential pro here of how do you get the most out of a community? Because it's one thing to join it. But how do you actually make sure you're getting value from it? How do you leverage the community like as an individual so yes you are getting value from it versus just being a lurker in 17 different like
Right.
sales professional groups? Like how do you think you could leverage a community to learn more, to grow?
So as a salesperson, I will say year to date, 90% of my pipeline and revenue sold has come through communities, which is a pretty hefty percentage. That all being, I would say, at least 85% through Pavilion, because that's where those buyers lived. That's where the people with the pen in hand were at. I think that there's a lot that people can do as salespeople, but they would rather lurk because they don't want to talk. They'd rather just kind of sit back and see what others do than copy, repeat, rinse, repeat, so on and so forth, because they don't want to put in the work, right? So maybe communities are a place where, I don't have to put in the work. Somebody else is doing that. Let me just kind of repeat what they're doing. Or they're going to show me how to do it. Then I can just go do it and I can copy paste.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to better you by any means. So if you're going to go in a community and you want value from it, go help people. First and foremost, show up with the intention to help, because what I've sold is solely from literally connecting the dots for people. They come back full circle. They'll say, hey, I've got an intro for you. Mind if I do this? Just solely because I helped them and showed up for them. So that's one way for salespeople to show up and get value from communities. Also, if there's courses, better jump on that, because those people are taking their time to deliver some really deep insights and wisdom, and to have that be something that you have done and accomplished, that's going to grow your confidence. It's going to grow what you know. You're going to be able to do things better, not just like copy paste. Let's just do what others are doing. So, and then reach out to people. Just ask people, hey, does this resonate with you? Right? Like, there's multiple people where I've reached out and I've written something up and they're like, yeah, no, but they would be my ICP, but maybe they're, different country, whatever it may be, but gain that just, I don't know, back and forth of just trust. So find the people that you can trust within the communities too, who know that you're not just there to lurk. Like, why are y'all lurking? Stop lurking. Show up. What are y'all lurking for?
It's actually comical to me. And you touched on two things that just like crack me up and confuse me about these communities, right? So like, I'm in Pavilion, right? I've been in Pavilion since it was Rev Collective, right? I've been a member there for a while. How much outreach do you think I get in Pavilion on a monthly basis? How many people do you think reach out to me asking for thoughts?
Monthly. Oh gosh.
What do you think?
I'm going with 125. None, actually. I'm going with 5.
5 to 6.
Yeah.
5 to 6.
I'm in a community. 125 should be.
Right. That's what's interesting. I'm in there. I'm accessible. You have direct access.
I see that little green thing, which is how we chatted one of the first times.
Less than 5 or 6 people reach out on a regular basis, which is funny. I teach courses with Pavilion. This is where it gets very interesting.
Yes.
Where I'm teaching a manager course right now that is 10 weeks, okay, 13 hours of content that I would put against any manager course quite literally in the world. Companies pay me tens of thousands of dollars to teach their people this stuff. And in Pavilion, you basically are getting it for free. And yet people will not show up. People will not engage. People will just kind of miss out on the end. It's like, do you understand the value here of the community? Is there, but a lot of people don't leverage the value of the community. And I think that's part of it, is they don't contribute first. Which then prevents them from building the relationships to make the asks second and going from there. Because you mentioned it right before we started recording, this idea of like community burnout, right? Of like, it was all the rage for a while, and we're starting to, I think, see it burn out a little bit. Like, we talked about saturation for a little bit, but go down this path a little bit deeper. Why do you think people are starting to burn out on communities a little bit, right as more and more people now are like, I got a community. Like,
because of that. Because everybody's got a freaking community. Everybody's like, I can't do my job and also jump in this community and contribute. This is exhausting. I mean, it is. And once you do show up within these communities that are just to go and show up to play and hang out, and what no really end goal in mind of what's actually going on or why you're there, you're burnt out because you're just showing up for what? And then you end up helping other people, and then it's not this return, and you're seeing, not that everything has to be a return, but if you're going to be a part of a community, if your time is invested within something that is where you're not paying, there's no paywall, you are showing up, delivering value, or asking the right questions, or tapping the right people. I keep saying that, but quote unquote, right people. Anybody could be the right person. You can learn something from anyone. But if you're doing that with all these communities, okay, what is it that you really are gaining? And I think of that for myself. I'm thinking, okay, everything I'm saying goes back to the one that has the paywall up. That is literally where everything is going back to Pavilion. The one that has done the most for me because I've shown up and I've taken the courses. I mean, with Jocko, right? Like when I learned an immense amount from when he talked, which course is it?
Revenue architecture.
Or intro to RevOps. So he was, so I took that course, and Rosalind Santalena, I mean, mentor to this day, and solely from showing up. I mean, we worked together for a couple of months, but it was through Pavilion too that we really were able to just collaborate and get to know one another. And now she's a dear friend. And so actually having that immense amount of knowledge at your fingertips, come on, y'all. Like, I mean, I signed up for ones that were only executive the other day and was approved to be in those, even though I'm associate. I think because I show up a whole lot and I know the people within Pavilion now. And they're like, okay, she's going to actually participate and she's going to show up and not just be a body that fills up this space. Whereas we could have somebody who maybe would contribute and bring value. I mean, I talked to someone the other day about potentially doing some kind of course at some point, and it kind of being an AMA with different people, and which is kind of interesting, right? Because it's like, that delivers value. People want to have a safe place. Great. Let's do it to where there's people who have so much knowledge, but let's not take all their time either. It doesn't have to be a long course. Let's do a 30-minute thing as opposed to that, where they're getting value out of it too. And it's a little fun. It's you have fun with it.
Yeah. And that's the last part that I wanted to get into, is like, to have fun with it. Because there's also, I think, communities out there that, they're either only focused on the fun, right? It's like, okay,
right.
This isn't where I need to have my fun. But there's also ones where it's so serious that there is no fun. There is no connection. There is no community. Like, it's too buttoned up. It's too tight. And I don't think people want that either, where it's like, hey, like, building relationships should be fun. Getting to meet two people that you vibe with should be fun. That's how you and I connected, right? Like, it's how you and I connected. It's like, hey.
I think I sent you a voice note, which you and I connected a long time ago, actually. And I don't even think I don't know if you remember, is when I was at Inside Out and I was working with your sister. Actually,
no, I did not remember.
I was with Katie, and her and I, you helped a bit with us trying to figure out how to even write a sequence. We had no clue what we were doing, either of us. So yeah, which is too funny. Side note.
Yeah.
And so crazy. I know. So then her and I both decided, all right, we're going to go find something new. I jump into Seamless. She jumps into Patient Pop. You're at Patient Pop, and she's telling me, okay, Katie's telling me not to say like anything to anybody, like that. Like, you're going to do this by yourself. Like, I believe in you, but I'm not going to get you this job. Like, you're going to get it yourself. And she was so pumped that she got it herself. And so, of course, like, from there, I'm following you, right? You're somebody that everybody's following and learning from. And so then when I reached out to you, knowing, okay, his little green dot is right there within Pavilion. It's like 7:30 at night. What was this? Maybe a couple months ago, 3 months ago. And I send you a voice note just saying, hey, do you want to do this webinar, this live with Morgan Smith and Nicholas? Do you want to do this with them? With Aligned? And you were like, what's your line that you always say? Let's do this. What do you say? You always have something you say that's like, let's kick it. Something like that. Let's kick it, fire emoji. Yeah. So all that said, it's like, okay, that's where I found you. I didn't go and try to find you in Rev Genius or not to knock any of these, but I didn't go and find you in some Slack community or whatever, or some Facebook group or something that's a premium version of just hangout places to go. I found you where I know you would be, where you teach and lead and deliver value, where I've gotten value from you.
No, that's what communities are supposed to be there for. And the last one, I want to quote Sam Jacobs on this, because he and I got to spend a lot of time together on the roadshow for Pavilion this year. And what he was ending every session with, and I would stick around to hear him do it because his delivery on it was so strong too. One, he was encouraging the members of the community to actually get out of a lot of channels, like narrow it down to like the 3 or 4 that you care about and are willing to contribute to. Get out of all the other ones, like narrow your focus down so you're not having so much of the overwhelm. But then the other point that he ended every session with, and I just love this, was give first.
Yep.
Like what happens if everyone was giving first in these communities, right? Like it can be so easy to feel like, oh, everyone's taking, everyone's asking me for this or that or the other. But like it's a give first. That's what actually a community is about. If you think about where communities started, it was, you had, a rice field. I had
exactly. I think of tents, right?
Like,
I think of
here you have something, I have something. It was this exchange. That's what made it a community.
Exchange, perfect word.
And that is what I think is missing in a lot of communities today. Is it's not an exchange. It tends to be very one-sided. A few people are contributing the value, the rest are quote unquote taking, versus a true exchange of supporting and carrying people and helping them, safe space or not. It's like that we're contributing, that you help, right? I wish the C shouldn't be community led, it's contribution led.
It's contribution, right? And going backwards, if I were to start a community, I would call it the exchange. That's good. Because think about that. I mean, then there's what are we doing here? Community, great. But the exchange, great. We're exchanging this knowledge that we have. And I would keep it small. I would keep it to where it's not that's how Pavilion was, going backwards again. One member at this executive level from a company could be a part of it. That's brilliant. You can't be talking about your marketing person and your salesperson and they can't be complaining about each other to someone else. I mean, there's already strife between the two, right? Nobody's going to solve it. I don't know if anybody ever will, but it's so obvious that communities are something that are being taken advantage of, that people are just not, they're just taking. You're so right. You're so spot on. Give, plant seeds, water them the right way, show up, but don't show up with all your time. There's no need to give all your time within these communities because you do have a day job. You don't have to, unless you want to quit your day job and just go community ham. Yeah, you do you. I'm not doing it, but that's not my path. I promise you that. But I mean, if you really want that value, you give, you plant seeds, you do it the right way.
No, that's the key to all of this. So right as we wrap up here, Amelia, right, the name of this podcast is Live Better, Sell Better. Because I also have this weird idea, right, that if we took better care of ourselves, had more joy, energy, fulfillment, all those things, that the sales would also improve because of that. So what would your Live Better advice be for people listening?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Understand that you can't do it all. And I'm speaking to myself through and through, because I've got it on a sticky note on my desk, and I've had it written for maybe 4 years now. And it's one stair at a time, not the whole staircase. And I have to remember, I can't jump from here all the way up to the top of the stairs by myself. It's impossible. One stair at a time, not the whole staircase. Do not be so hard on yourself, because nobody's Superman, nobody's Superwoman. You aren't. As much as you want to believe it, you can be with what that one stair is. It doesn't have to be that one big leap.
I'm Superman though. Like I do.
Right. Like I'm Superwoman.
Just, let's be clear.
I mean, we are super human, but it's fine. Like telling everyone else. Just kidding, y'all. Just kidding.
I love it. We all got flaws, and like I like how you called it out, because like I get a lot of comments on some of my LinkedIn posts like, oh, I needed to hear this today, and it's like, girl, me too. That's why I wrote it.
Right.
Half the shit I'm writing is to me as well. It's not like it's not from a high place of like, this is how you should do it. It's me talking to myself and going, yo, like if I need to hear this, I bet other people do too. And it's that reminder to self that I think comes across in a lot of your content, my content, where there's a realness to it. It's not a better than thou communication. It's like
it's not unsolicited advice, right? Like there's too much noise with that already. I don't know everything. I mean, yeah, I do. You do too, right? Just kidding. We do and we don't, right? But we're showing up because we have things to say that are applicable to what's going on in our minds. I mean, there's things that I have to tell myself, okay, you are doing enough. You are fine. You can go to bed. Like, you don't have to keep putting so much pressure on yourself because you think you have to do X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. Game plan. Just game plan and stick to the game plan. Without a game plan, you're just going rogue. And that's me talking to myself again.
True story. Well, Amelia, this was phenomenal, and it's a topic that we haven't touched on here yet, which I'm also excited about. Where can people find you? Where are you putting out content? What communities are you in? If they should reach out to you, like where can they get more Amelia Taylor in their lives? Because people need it.
Hey, I appreciate it. So LinkedIn, obviously, find me there, reach out. I am obviously in Pavilion, go Pavilion, because you've been a hot topic with this conversation. And right now, I'm about to go and narrow down my whole list of things that I've got going on, because I feel like this is my next best step to live better. 100%, because there can't be all the things going on if I want to be doing the very best at what I do at my day job. So this is a perfect topic. I love it.
Love it. Good shit. Well, appreciate you, girl, as always. Really, really good stuff. We'll be chatting again soon after.
Awesome. Right back at you. Thank you.
Later.
Bye.